Jamir Perez commits to Florida. He is, I believe he measured in at 6'4", 360 from what I read. He's listed at 6'4", 330 on On3. Now, there's a big discrepancy in his composite and consensus rankings compared to On3 and 247. On3 has him at 657. I believe 247 composite has him at 1,012. The reason for that is ESPN has him unranked. Now, I believe the composite takes that into account while the On3 consensus doesn't. So if ESPN just gives him a rank, which I'm sure they will in their next update or whenever, he's probably going to jump up to that same range, maybe higher. He's someone that really over the past month or so, his recruitment's kind of exploded. Big offers really from Ohio State, Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Vanderbilt, Alabama. The big competition here was Ohio State, and Alabama was said that they were going to jump into the mix here real soon. Now, we don't give them a chance, or they might still jump in, but they might not now that it's all said and done. But I think he's someone that we could see rise up the rankings. You know, you see 657, it's not something you're overly excited about. Another thing you have to keep in mind, nose tackles usually are a bit underranked compared to the other defensive line positions. Usually they're less athletic, bigger body players. So I think you're getting someone here in Jamir Perez who, you know, you're going to look at his ranking and not be overly excited. But I think this is an addition you have to make.
Yeah, I'd also add, you know, he's an Ohio guy. He's from Cleveland. So, you know, not necessarily the best recruiting state. Like, you know, sometimes those players get overlooked as well. But, you know, and to address Mark's question in the comments, which I can't, if you can pin that. Yeah, because I can't pin this week. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, Mark. I don't know if you have any insight on that, Tyler?
So from what I've been reading from Ohio State boards, I don't officially know, but from what it sounded like, they went in-house with him last week. So they took visits to him last week. They were very excited. They really wanted him, at least members on the board and on Ohio State message boards. They really wanted to get Perez, someone that they thought they really had locked up, just waiting for him to get him on an official visit. So I don't know if it was officially committable offer, but Ohio State, they were actively recruiting him, and if he wasn't a Gator, he probably would have ended up in that Ohio State recruiting class when by the end of things, at least.
Yeah, so I mean, a decent offer list, and if that was a real offer from Ohio State, I mean, beating out you know a guy that Ohio State at least had interest in, for an Ohio kid, like that's pretty nice. I mean, you know, even if ESPN ranks him and he rises in the composite, because it's hard to imagine, you know, he's truly should be a outside the top 1,000 composite player. Still sort of going to be a 3-star and kind of middle of the road one at that. But, you know, I will say this staff's hit rate on guys like that has been pretty solid. Their evals seem to be pretty good with some of these lower rated players. So like, I think it's a nice pickup. I mean, obviously it's not one that, is going to be, you know, a massive cause for celebration or anything, but, you know, nice to get a second player in the class, a non-quarterback in the class. And I mean, I think it's one of those pickups where if you can close with some of these higher rated guys that Florida's going after, and there's quite a few of them, as we'll get into later in the show, I think it's a perfectly fine take. But just obviously more work to be done.
To show you guys like how new this guy is on the scene, he wasn't even ranked until April 24th of this year. So it's not like he's just been sitting and just like finally blew up. He just last month, and not even a month ago, got ranked. So he's someone that really has a lot of room to grow. Last year, we saw it with a guy like Joseph Mbachu, who I believe when we first offered also wasn't ranked. So they have a good eye for talent. You can tell from this staff, someone that could really jump up jump up the rankings and hopefully prove to be a valuable commit to us. You look at our other nose tackles, Stephon Shivers was also a higher rated 3-star than what Perez is right now. And Mekhi Burrow, I mean, Desmond Watson was also a 3-star. Like, we're getting a lot of 3-star nose tackles in because not many of them are 4-stars. You look at Jamari Lyons, who I project is going to be our starting nose tackle this year. He was a 4-star, but he was more of a true like defensive tackle, not nose tackle coming out of high school. A little bit smaller, more athletic type of guy. So Billy Napier has said it. I was reading in an interview, or I was reading where someone said like last year they interviewed him. they said they wanted to get a lot more beef on that defensive line, especially the nose tackle room. And this is exactly what they're doing here with the guy that's 360 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, that's really great size to work with right out of the box. And it's like, I mean, is he a guy that's going to be like an instant impact? I would say probably not, but I think a pretty, nice project player there. And yeah, I think, talking about the DTs, Mark, like, I mean, yeah, obviously it's a position that Florida's recruiting pretty heavily. So, like I do give, there's things I'm critical of this staff about, but I think I will give them some credence and benefit of the doubt when it's, when they go and take a guy they really like, even if it's not someone the recruiting services are particularly high on.
Yeah, there's also a difference here because this guy is being projected to play nose tackle. When you look at Ball Stone, Vodney Cleveland, Kendall Gervil, those guys are more defensive tackles. Drillin McCoy, like F, or an edge rusher. So none of those guys are true nose tackles like Jamir Perez is. But yeah, I mean, they must really like him for the fact that they just offered him and he's already committed. So it's not someone they offered that. So if they miss on a couple prospects, he's the top nose tackle. He must be one of the top nose tackles on our boards. I have to look a little bit more into that to figure out what other guys you're going after at that position. But given that he's already committed and that he had the green light right away, I'd assume he was pretty high up there.
Yeah, no doubt.
I was watching some of this guy's film. I mean, when you have someone of his size, they're just going to bully a lot of high school talent. I mean, a lot of high school players. So it's not too much you can take away from that. But one thing I really noticed was his patience. He wasn't rushing a lot of plays and making mistakes. Like, he was being patient. He was waiting for the running backs to come towards him. He wasn't trying to overdiagnose the play and causing a bigger gain instead of where he would have tackled them or got that TFL. I think Perez, someone that can be very coachable. You got to see what happens with his size. 6'4", 360, that's probably about around where you want him for a nose tackle, maybe a bit more muscular. Because from what I saw, he's a little bit of weight you don't want on him. But, you can get here to college and, they can work around there how they want to.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you don't see a lot of these guys in the trenches, like particularly, interior offensive linemen, interior defensive linemen, see the field early because a lot of them do kind of deal with that. They come in, they're big, but it's not necessarily all the kind of weight that you want to see. So they kind of need a year to kind of condition and then muscle up. So I mean, that's kind of why I said earlier he's probably more of a project guy. But again, there's nothing wrong with taking those guys as long as you fill other more immediate needs elsewhere in the class, which, hopefully they're going to do in the coming weeks. As this was the first weekend of official visits. They've got stacked visitor lists for the next month and a half, basically. So, a lot of opportunities to do that. But I think in the meantime, this is a good start and nice to kind of get him while he was, was it probably not while he was on campus. I guess he's probably gone by now, but after a weekend visit.
He would have been either just leaving when he committed or still on campus. Something that he said helped him make his decision. He was he was toured by Mekhi Barrow, who was a freshman nose tackle for us last season. Coming 247 composite, he was in the 700s. And he gave us pretty good minutes for a freshman nose tackle. Mentioned how Barrow was also a bit like overweight coming in, but that UF offseason, Tyler Miles, our new strength and conditioning coach, who we hired, who was new last year?
I'm pretty sure it's right, but I'm not 100% sure.
So, I mean, they really preached about him, about development to him, and about getting their bodies in shape and everything. And just looked at Mekhi Barrow and saw that, okay, that's something I can do, maybe get immediate playing time like he did. So I think they really got a guy they like here that they can polish into their own type of player.
Yeah, 100%. And kind of going off what you were saying earlier, like I'm also curious to see now that he is on people's radars, he's got a whole, with a whole nother season of high school football where he could potentially land in that regard. So, maybe a take that we're looking at a lot differently, by October or November.